Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another evening with Blockchain Braun. It's good to have you here this evening. If you would please, as you come in, if you would smash up the like buttons, subscribe and share with a friend, I definitely would appreciate it. Thank you. Well, tonight I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about the BRICS Summit that happened last week in Kazan, Russia. I also want to talk about the financial reset. If you've never heard of the financial reset, we'll go ahead and discuss that tonight, and hopefully I can say something that will familiarize you with it. Then also as well, I want to talk about the upcoming election here in the United States of America. Today, I want to start out, though, with the BRICS Summit that happened in Kazan, Russia last week. As you know, BRICS, as far as that system, you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. You also have Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates are the 9 members of the BRICS, which they are looking to add more. And from my understanding, when we had our last discussion, upon research, I researched that 47 countries were looking to sign on with the BRICS system, perhaps at the summit. And then an additional 159 countries that will sign on to the BRICS bridge system, which is like SWIFT. So being a part of the economic system without actually being a part of the BRICS monetary system, like the original 9 members and the other 47 countries that they were looking to add. Well, the summit didn't go as planned as far as in that regard. There were a few people that didn't show up. The usual suspects showed up. And then come to find out, initially when I talked to you guys, I said that Saudi Arabia was at it. And there was some rumblings about Argentina being at it. But those 2 countries declined the being in the BRICS system. And so that was news to me. And maybe it was mentioned and maybe I missed it, but that was definitely news to me. Then also Kazakhstan, which is neighbor to Russia, Vladimir Putin was looking for them to be there at the summit. And so when they did not appear, he obviously was not happy at all because he immediately put sanctions on Kazakhstan or put a ban on agricultural products to Kazakhstan immediately with them not showing up. And so he voiced his displeasure that way. So that just lets you know how important it was for them to be there in reference to Vladimir Putin as far as what he thought in way of Kazakhstan being there. So that's something to think about. They were not able to agree on a lot. There were some things that were still discombobulated and uncertain when it comes to the BRICS system. And there were countries that still want to be associated with the West. They don't want to be totally cut off from the West. Because you understand that it's in the form of trade. When you totally cut yourself off from other parts of the world, wherever you're lagging at as far as supply, when it comes to certain things that you have or don't have, those things that you don't have, you may be able to get that from another country that has an overabundance of those things where you don't have an abundance of them. And that enriches your country. That helps your country to grow. That increases your GDP. And so when you totally cut that off, then you can arrive upon an amalgamation of problems. And so there are certain countries that are not trying to be totally disassociated from the West. Those countries would be Brazil and India, which are 2 very important parts of the BRICS system when it comes to GDP, when it comes to population, when it comes to economics. And so there has to be some agreement there, or they have to come to some type of understanding that there are going to be countries there that are not going to totally disassociate themselves from the West. So they have some things to iron out there when it comes to that. And we'll see what happens with the future or in the future when it comes to those things. Now, what does that do for the United States? In my opinion, This lull or this disagreement they have, or this kind of buttoning up that they have to do, what that allows us to do is get our stuff together here in the United States. When it comes to the overprinting of our money and the devaluing of our money over time, due to the overprinting of our money, when it comes to our US dollar not being associated with anything or not tied to anything or back to anything of value, except for the full faith of the United States and its government, I believe that we need to look into tying our monetary system or our dollar back to something tangible, something valuable like gold or silver, or maybe even something in the form of digital gold like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we know maybe it didn't work out or will not work out as a currency as far as medium of exchange, but Bitcoin can be a store of value, which it is. People are using Bitcoin, and it has become a store of value for many people. So it is indeed digital gold. Maybe there's a way to tie the US dollar to Bitcoin, but the thing about it is there is risk there. So they will have to look at a way to circumvent that risk. We'll have to see what happens there. Maybe not Bitcoin. Maybe it does have to be something like gold or silver. We'll just have to see what happens in the future. Since everything is going to digital, and there's a tokenization of our economy and a tokenization of the world economy at large. And I think that's something that we're going to go into in the future. I think everything is going to become digital. And so we'll just have to see how things line up in the future when it pertains to that. So that leads me into the financial reset. Now, the financial reset has been called many things over the years. The theory of the financial reset, or what it is, has been anything from a total collapse of the United States dollar and its economy to a revaluing of every currency in the world from what we know it to be today to a transfer of monetary value or a transfer of value from the paper currency all the way over to precious metals like gold or silver or something else of value. I don't know if it's any of those. I think what a financial reset is, in my opinion, is what Laura Fontana, who is the head of research and development, or was the head of research and development for Wells Fargo. I don't know if she still carries that title, but in a video some years back, she called it a change of the financial paradigm, a rewiring of the system. And I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was a great definition to describe a global financial reset, a rewiring of the system. So for what we know it to be is fiat currency, what we know the banks to be right now, a rewiring of the system, a change over to digital, which we're heading that direction anyway, but a total change over to digital. There were banks that were experimenting with their own inside digital currency to do inside operations and transactions. And I believe there are some banks still experimenting with that. I know Wells Fargo had Wells Fargo Digital Cash. I believe Bank of America had their version of it, and so on and so forth. There's been experimentation going on with blockchain and distributed ledger technology over the years, and I believe it's going to be implemented in a broad way in the near future. I believe they just have to come up with an efficient way of doing it and a seamless way of doing it to where it doesn't totally take away from the masses and just totally mess up economics across the world, but a seamless transaction into digital and a tokenization of things of value. And I think that's going to happen. How it's going to happen and how everything is going to come about, that's something we have to keep an eye on and something we have to keep researching and talking about. But to me, that's what a reset's going to be. It's going to be a rewiring of the system. And I believe that we're on the verge and on the cusp of that happening very, very soon. Now, let's get into the upcoming election. I don't think I've ever seen during my lifetime a climate of such tension in our country during my lifetime. Now, of course, my parents have experienced those things during the civil rights movements and doing other things where Black people were trying to matriculate upwards, trying to get certain freedoms and things of that nature. But as far as the uneasiness, and it seems like the steps back that we've made when it comes to relations in this country, I don't think I've experienced this before during our lifetime. Now, let me say this. We live in a country in the United States of America that have freedoms. We are free to have our own thought. We are free to worship our God. We are free to live by our own means in a lot of aspects, as long as we're not breaking laws, and as long as we're not harming anyone else. We have certain freedoms that are allowed to us by our Constitution and by the way our land and our nation is governed, where a lot of places do not have. A lot of places are forced to live a certain way without having their free train of thought, without being able to read, study, come up with their own ideologies. Other places don't have that, but we have that here in the United States. So to attempt to force someone to believe the way you want them to believe, or to force or try to make somebody vote the way you want them to vote, or shame them into voting the way you want them to vote, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, etc., I believe is a disservice to our country. To call, whether you agree with him or not, to call a man, as in President Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, I believe is treading on dangerous territory. I believe you're creating a climate of revolution. You're creating a climate of anger, and you're creating a climate of emotion when you call an individual who has not led a Holocaust or built concentration camps or killed 6-7 million people, and you refer to him as that person. I believe is poor in judgment. I believe is disrespectful, and I believe you're doing your country and you're doing your way of government a disservice by doing these things. Vice versa, by referring to someone as dumb, stupid, not smart, other things as far as maybe what you disagree with the person as being derogatory and disrespectful, I think as well creates a climate for emotion, creates a climate for revolution, creates a dangerous climate for bad things to happen unless you get it under control. And no matter how you believe, no matter how you're going to vote, we live in a country where we have that freedom to do so, whether you agree with it or not. Now, you can debate, and that's fine. You can disagree, and that's fine. But let me ask you a question. Are we truly debating to listen and understand? Or are we debating just to be heard? I'm going to say this again. Are we debating to truly listen and understand? Or are we debating just to be heard? And there's a difference. I don't believe a lot of us are talking to one another to listen and understand. You automatically think you're right in your assumptions and the way you think, with no research being done, with nothing to back up your argument, but just by looking at the media or what's being said on media and social media and other aspects, whether it be TikTok, IG, YouTube, or whatever you're seeing on there with biased parts of the media, whether it be CNN, Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC, etc. When media can push a certain narrative that may be untrue, that may drive emotion, that may program your way of thought instead of you having individual thought, that's dangerous. And I don't care. On my end, I'm not going to think the way another person wants me to think. I have my own ideology. I have my own way of belief. I'm free to worship God, to be a Christian like I am, to read my word, and to have my way of living, just like other people have their way of living, whatever it may be. I have to respect that. Though I may not agree with it, I have to respect it. And so you thinking that you're going to shame me into doing what you want me to do, that's not going to happen. You thinking you're going to shame somebody else into doing what you want them to do, that is not going to happen. We live in a country where we have freedom of thought. We live in a country where we have freedom to do what we want to do and think the way we want to think. And that's just the way it is. And you're going to have to deal with it. Now, whether your candidate gets in office or not, you're going to have to bring your emotions under control and continue doing what you know to do to be productive, to be a staple to your family, to be a staple to your country. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I repeat, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The world is looking at us. The reason they're separating and going to the BRICS system, the reason people are talking about a financial reset is because people are looking to break away from the United States. They don't like the way we are right now. Though we still have the power, thank God. Though we still have the world reserve currency, thank God. Though we still have the economics and the things that work more efficiently than other places in the world, thank God. And hopefully we can get our stuff together while this BRICS system is discombobulated and things are going on where they're not efficient, they're still trying to find their way. Hopefully we can find our way and get back to where we need to be as a country and do the things that we need to do as far as being a leader in the world, because they're watching us. And unless we can get it together, if we keep dividing ourselves and if we keep going at one another, if we keep destroying one another, we're going to kill one another within. I'm not talking about literally, but from a figurative standpoint, we're going to kill ourselves from within and we're going to be divided. And a house divided against itself cannot stand. All right, guys, thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to share this little bit of time with you. And remember, always, always, always stay vigilant. Thank you.